I'm Chey, and welcome to my March reading wrap-up. Nope. Hey, I'm Chey, and welcome to my February reading wrap-up. I'll get there eventually. I'm still in 2014. Let's be honest. What do you mean 2014 was 12 years ago and not 2? I have decided that on this channel going forward, I'm going to make my TBR typically in short form, just because I feel like I have less to say when picking things for my TBR, because most of the time I'm a mood reader, so it's gonna be like, hey, I just want to read this, and that's all there is to it. But wrap-ups like this, I'm gonna make a full-fledged video. So in these wrap-up videos, I'm gonna do the typical, give you some stats, talk about the books I read, give you some reviews, but I also am gonna feel the wrath of the wrap-up. I love tracking stats, dude. I have a media catalog of my DVDs, of my records, and of course, of my book. That means that I track the percentages of how much I have read, how many books I have left in a series to go, all that good mess. So in these wrap-up videos, I'm gonna go over those stats with you. We're gonna go over them every month and see how I have improved throughout the month or how I haven't. And if I ain't, then there's gonna be a price to pay. Where's my little sticky? Probably shouldn't have said it like that. Reminds me, earlier this month I was talking to my friend M, sending them pictures, and they were like, oh, it's so good to put faces to the stories that you tell me. And I was like, yeah, it's best to do while they still have them.
I'm in.
Let's get the big numbers out of the way first. In total, I read 15 books this month. And what I think is even more impressive is I got my current reads down to 31. I don't remember what I started this month with, but I think it was closer to 40. I think it was 38. So, in total, 15 books, and according to my story graph, I read 4,032 pages. Not bad, all in all. Pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. I've seen better. Of that 15, 8 were from my physical TBR. Again, great. I'm always trying to focus on reading my physical TBR. You can see why. And when it came to series, I made progress in 4, I finished 3, and I started 2. Now, we're gonna go over my spreadsheet stats. This is where the punishing comes in. The concept is pretty simple. I keep a spreadsheet of everything that I read. I have a manga tracker, I have a webtoons tracker, I have a series tracker, I have a physical media tracker. I got everything because I'm crazy. And so, we're gonna review it every month, these percentages and stuff that I have. And if I have done worse than I wanted to, then I will be punished. What I will not be punished for, I am not going to punish myself if I don't finish a TBR that I set for the month. That feels, it would backfire. I just know that it would backfire. Things that I can be punished for. Here's a prime example. So this is the tracker for all the books that I own, physically. As you can see, I have a total column, I have a read percentage and unread percentage column, and then I have one to get to 80%, however many I need to read. I also have the number of read and unread in the top corner. What I'm going to do is at the start of the month, I'm going to hold myself accountable, show you what my percentages are, what my numbers are, and then at the end of the month, at the wrap-up, we'll go over it. And if my read percentage, for example, goes down and my unread percentage goes up, so if I buy more books that month than I read, then I get punished. What kind of a punishment, Chey, you ask? Well, for that specific example, it would be something like, next month, I have to read more of my physical TBR than I do library loans. The whole point of this is to give myself sort of a handicap, sort of a focus for the next month, a punishment, but nothing that is going to actually hinder me or backfire. Hence why I'm not going to punish myself for not finishing a TBR, especially when I know that I'm a mood reader. But something like this makes more sense. I'm slowly coming up with these punishments because this is literally just an idea I thought of like 2 hours ago. But yeah, if you have any ideas for punishments with these stats or anything like that, let me know. I would love to hear your ideas. Because yeah, it's still really new. But let's get into it. Let's get into it to see if I'm gonna suffer or not. But here we go. Let's start with my all books tracker, the one I use for the example. The tracker, I feel like Cusco's poison. The tracker for all my books, the books for all physical books, for all my tracker. At the start of February, my total books were 802. My read percentage was 62.6%, and my unread was 37.4. Now, that's not horrible. That's not horrible. It's fine. If it dips below 60%, I'll get sad, because especially last year, one of my goals was to, before my birthday, at least read 80% of the books that I own, and I did it. By the way, vlog up above if you're curious. And I would like to get there again, but I have no holds that I'm going to ever continue to sustain the 80%. But I think it's nice to strive towards. Personally, I think as long as I stay above 50, I'll be happy with myself. And I'll tell you what hurt this so drastically from 80 down to 60%. It's the library haul that I did, which is also a big video up on this channel. And it will be getting its own series, don't worry, that is currently in the works. And it has its own tracker, which we'll get to, but that's what hurt it. 502 read, 300 unread. Great, okay, cool. So what about the end of all books? Well, as you can see, my read percentage went up to 63.6%. So I went up a whole percentage point. A whole percentage point, baby! My read went up to 510, and my unread went down to 292. So we are safe. We are safe from the wrath of the wrap-up with this one. And yes, I've already seen these screenshots, but you think I remember them? No, I'm looking at this in real time with you. Well, you're not real time. I don't even know if you're real. Next, let's move on to my manga tracker. This one is a little bit more complicated because this isn't just all the manga that I own. This is all the manga that I'm reading. So as you can see, I have a separate tab next to the read, unread one, which says whether or not if I own it. And you can also see down to the side, I have unread, unowned TBR and unread, owned TBR. I differentiate, and I made sure in the formula to not count that against me, which you can see by the dramatic percentages up at the top. So it looks kind of scary, but when you look down at the bottom, you see that my unread owned TBR, I only have 16 manga that I haven't read, compared to the 171 that I do have read and own. So for this, I can count a punishment towards the amount of manga that I have unread, or progressing or not in the series. And I'll do both. So for total series, I have 42% read and 57% unread. Now, what I also do count for read is if I'm up to date in a series. So a series like Die Dark. Yes, we're out on Volume 9, but Volume 9 hasn't gotten an English release yet. So I am caught up, so I count that as read in the formula. I'm not going to make that count against me. That's not fair. And also what doesn't count is if I haven't started a series. That doesn't count for unread. It was, and then I realized that was crazy, so I stopped that. So that was the start. And here's the end of the month. So as you can see, I haven't finished any series, but my unread owned TBR went down. So I now only have 14 unread TBR. So I did progress there. So we are safe yet again. Next, to the series tracker. This one is also like the manga tracker, and it's a little bit complicated, but you'll get it. You'll get it. And if you don't, you don't. The start of February with my series tracker. Again, you can see series read, unread, so 28 read, 67 unread or unfinished. Total series, 95. And again, with the read and unread percentages, up to date counts as read, not even started doesn't count towards unread. You can see that I went a little bit more in detail with this one, so I have my unread, unowned TBR, which is a lot higher than my unread, owned TBR. But my unread, owned TBR for series is, yikes. But you're here for the drama. So, my read percentage is 29.4%, unread 70.5%, the worst we have seen yet. And my unread owned TBR is 103. So let's see how I did. Please have let me did good, or I'm going to be sad. Unfortunately for you, I'm the greatest. So I ended up finishing about 3 or 4 series. Made progress in 4 series because I became up to date with one. My percentage read went up to 33.7% if we round up, and unread went down to 66.3%. I also took my unread owned TBR down to 98. So I am safe in all aspects of that too. Now the last one we'll get a little bit heavier into once I actually start doing the series, but I have a separate tracker for the library books that I got from the library haul. I'm pointing at them right now. This one is just as simple as my main tracker. I have the percentage read and unread. So total 161 books. This is the most atrocious percentage with 87.6% unread. God help me, because I clearly ain't gonna. This will become more prevalent when I actually start doing the series. But let's see how I did. Oh, thank God. My read percentage, this was the one I was most worried about. So my read percentage went up from 12.4 to 13%, what did I read, like, one book? Is that it? Did I read, like, one? I read one book. That's okay. I think it was the 5th Johannes Cabal one. I think that's the one that I was counting. So we're all good. We're all safe on that. You don't get to see an example of the punishment now. But I am going to give myself a little bit of a handicap anyway, just to introduce you to the concept and to make the next wrap-up a little bit more interesting. I need to get my manga read. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to challenge myself to read at least 4 of my unread manga to get down to 10. And I want to make progress in 3 manga series. I was going to say finish, but I don't know how close I am to finishing things or getting up to date. So I'm just going to say make progress in 3. I feel like that's a good challenge. I feel like that's safe. And since I'm on this dopamine kick, I want to make progress in at least 2 normal series. And if I don't... And don't forget, if you want to see whether or not I'm going to get punished next month, you gotta hit the subscribe button down below. You gotta stick around to see. And if you're liking what you see so far, hit that like button and subscribe to stay around and see what happens to me. The first book I started the month with was The Tea Dragon Tapestry. This is book 3 in the Tea Dragon Society. And what a good way to start the month, by finishing a series with a cute and cozy little graphic novel. I really like this as an ending to the series. I love the artwork of the series. It's such a fun, cozy read. And I thought it was a good end to cap it off with. We see the recurring characters. We get to watch them grow up. It did have some emotional pulling moments. I definitely liked it. I don't know that I liked it better than the first one, but I think I definitely liked it better than the second. I think I liked the second more than some people did, but I think I still like this one more than the second one. I liked it. I liked the introduction, the constant introduction of new characters without them feeling shoehorned, and the way that they all interconnect, and the different emotional drives that we see through everybody and get to see the different motivations, yet how they can all learn similar lessons and maturity, emotional growth to work with each other and themselves through these things. I thought it was great. Then, thanks to my friend Tiny for sending me this, the guy she was interested in wasn't a guy at all. This follows Aya Mitsuki? Mitsuki. This follows Aya and Mitt. I'm gonna say Mitsuki, and Chey. Mitt works at her uncle's record CD store, and Aya loves music. So Aya frequents this store, and she has a crush on Mitt, but she doesn't know that Mitt is actually a girl, and Mitt is actually her classmate. So, whenever she comes in the CD store, they tend to bond over music, they tend to bond over the conversations they have over music, and she's oblivious to her being her classmate the entire time. And so, obviously, there's this running tension of, she recognizes her, but she has no clue it's her, and so has these ideas built up about her, and wanting this sort of dream, this fantasy, and will she live up to the reality of said fantasy? It's really cute. I think it has great messages centered around music and how music plays such a vital role in our lives and connecting our lives with each other. How music is a vehicle for turning isolation into community, and how we can all have our own experiences with music and experience so many diverse things within it, because none of our life experiences are the same, and yet music can be that binding force that brings us all together to say, I don't know exactly how you feel, but I have felt my own version of that, and we understand that each other has had that, and that's a bond that can't be broken. So, it's got the studio engineer's big thumb of approval. Alright, Tessa, come here! The next book that I finished, and finished out another series for me, was Tessa Bailey's Too Beautiful to Break, number 4 in Romancing the Clarkson series. If you've been here for a while, you probably saw my rant about book 3 with Peggy. Oh, Peggy! Oh, Peggy! I did not like that book. This series is also not my favorite romance series, but I forced myself through it anyway because I wanted to get to this book. I read the first book, I thought it was fine. It was interesting enough. I read the second book, it was fine. I didn't love it. I liked it. That's as much as I can say about it. Third book, really did not like it, except towards the end, and it made sense. This one, I like more than the first. So this one I probably like the best out of all of them, and it's because of Belmont. I love Belmont. I suffered through 3 books to get to Belmont. I have a lot of issues with Tessa Bailey. Not personally. I don't know Tessa Bailey like that. I'm not coming for her like that. I have a lot of issues with her writing, and I'm going to talk about it. Here is my issue with Tessa Bailey's writing. First of all, the crimes against my eyeballs that this person has committed with the English language should be studied. And I don't mean in a lab, I mean in a biohazard facility. Because what do you mean that you're gonna be talking about sucking on a girl's hoo-ha and then think about your future children doing that when you're in the middle of the hoo-ha? Whoa! Thinking about how you're doing the action, it's like, oh yeah, my future children are gonna be doing this someday. Like, no! Michelangelo of dirty talk? I'm sorry, first of all? Oh, then on the next page, you get watching you moan and hump me. And I said, they said that out loud with their mouth holes? They said that out loud with their mouth holes. But I'm sorry, there's nothing more unsexy than likening yourself to a future child, like to your future children when you're in the middle of said act. But let's talk about the positives, okay? I love Belmont. I love a big, cuddly, grumpy man of mystery, okay? And that is what he is. He has such an interesting backstory in this trauma that has been following him along, and I liked the discussion of the toxicity of codependence between these two. And I like the discussion of the own personal journeys of why they were that way and trying to work together to find their own independence, but also find the balance between being the support for each other, but also not being a crutch. I thought that was great, and I thought that was handled really well, and I love seeing that in a book. I love seeing the maturity and the exploration of that between these characters. I think that was great. I think that was fantastic. Don't get me wrong. While I have issues with Tessa's dirty talk, and sometimes she has banger lines, sometimes she has banger romantic lines, and that's what makes me even angrier, because I'm like, Tessa, what do you mean? You gonna have me being like, and then you're gonna have me being like 2 pages later, I'm like, there's so much potential, Tessa. There's so much potential, Tessa. Bring back more editors. I was also really interested to get to know Sage, our FMC of this book, who has really just been a traveling companion these past 3 because she's best friends with Peggy, the sister of this family, and we only ever really saw her through the eyes of Peggy, and so it was going to be really interesting to get to see her point of view and like what made her the way that she is. And that is the main thing of this book, is the road trip is over, and I should tell you, the start of this is like, there's this family, their mom dies, and her last wish is for them all to take a road trip and to, on New Year's Day, take the polar plunge, the ice plunge or whatever in New York, to do that together. That's like her last wish. And so they're on this road trip, and along the way, all the members find love, which is a crazy astronomical possibility, by the way. And, wow, Chey, math nerd come out. Sage was just along for the ride. She was just there. And so we've never really gotten to see her come into her own. So this book follows the end of that journey where all the other 3 members of the family are like off with their own significant others doing their own thing in the span of a week or so, like a month or so, mind you. And Sage, this whole time, has been like, I'm going to travel with y'all to, like, this point, but then, like, I have to go off on my own. And that has been known. And Belmont, because he's codependent, they're both codependent, has been trying to convince her to let him go with her. But that doesn't happen. So she ends up going off without him, and he's like, she's acting weird, something's wrong, I need to go find her, and at least, like, I need to make sure she's okay. Like, I need to find why she's acting like this, because something just, isn't right. And he's not wrong. And so we followed the conflict of what trauma has driven Sage home and what her motivations are for trying to be hyper independent. And it's a classic tale of small town, blue collar, hard working folk against a very, very tight monopoly in said small town in the hands of a family. And I'm all for those stories. I love that. And then another thing I love is we get this big reveal of the life-changing event that happened to Belmont that we've sort of hinted around in the other books, but we finally get the reveal of what happened. Here's my issue with that, because I love that, and I love it, because I was like, whoa, even I was not expecting what happened that happened. Here's my issue with it, though. We didn't get enough about it. We didn't get to see the ramifications, because even his family, he hasn't told his family what actually happened. They know the after effects. They don't know what caused said thing to happen, because he's never told them. And I wanted that. I wanted that fallout of the ramifications of him being like, hey, this is why what happened, and have them be like, what the You know, like, I don't need a whole Yellowstone family drama novel about it, but show me a little bit. I want to see his character further grow, because it took a lot of growth for him to admit it to Sage and, like, come out and share his trauma and stuff like that with her, and that was beautiful. But I want to see him continue to grow and reach out to his family and show, like, his burgeoning trust and stuff with them. And then there's also this big reveal at the end that I also did not see coming, but it only met half the momentum of, like, the oh moment, because it just, again, I wanted more. Like, part of it saved itself because in the epilogue, like, we do get a little bit more of an explanation, because there's the whole, like, where are they now, talking about all the members of the family moment, but I still wanted more, because it was this whole thing of, like, full circle moment of, like, the whole series of, like, why are they here, and here's what was planned all along and stuff, and it's over in, like, a paragraph, and then we only get, like, another paragraph in the epilogue. I wanted more, Tessa. Tessa! The fall of the house... The fall of the House of Cabal. Johannes? So, as I have put on my Anna Shate Instagram, I am a massive Johannes Cabal apologist. And if you haven't heard of the series, get ready to suffer. There's a series called Johannes Cabal, the Johannes Cabal series, that I randomly found at the library. I found books 4 and 5 at my library sale, and I bought book 1 to read it, because I opened them up and I was like, oh, that sounds funny and hilarious. So I bought book 1 to read it and fell in love with it, and it's been a 5-star fucking series for me. TVO TLDR, this series follows the shenanigans, adventures, and exploits of a man named Johannes Cabal, who is a necromancer of some little infamy. Life tends to go sideways for the man who is constantly searching for the cure to death, because that's what he's doing. He's not just trying to raise people from the dead, he's trying to find a cure for death. He is sassy, it's full of dry humor. If you like Monty Python, if you like dry British humor, dry British wit, you'll probably love this. I love Johannes so much. He's my walking red flag, and I love him so much. And I love his brother, too. I love them both. I love every single person in the series, and I was so sad, but also so happy to see it come to an end, to see everything come, like, full circle. Because this is like the Avengers Endgame of the series. Like, we are getting appearances by people who, like, we haven't seen since the first book, but they're relevant when they come in. It's not shoehorned, it's more like nods, you know, things that make sense. And it's beautiful. The humor, the story, the adventure, it broke my heart and mended it back together. And I can't wait to reread the series. I'm making Nat read the series because I put book 1 up on her. Well, you can't even see it, but I put book 1 on her 10 for 10 this year. And by the way, y'all should check out this series too. But I want to reread it with her because I love it. I love this world so much. I do have one complaint that's not even, like, really a complaint, and I can't really tell you about it because it's a spoiler, but it's in regards to 2 characters that I ship. And again, it's not a complaint, it's more of just like a... Overall, though, obviously I can't talk about this too much because it would be massive spoilers for the end of the series. I am happy with the way it wrapped up. My only complaint that I can talk about is I want there to be another one. And I say that because there are things that I want answers to, and you know what? I would settle for not even a novel. I would settle for, like, a short story, for, like, a novella, because there are things at the end of this that are not plot holes. Like, it's not things that are left unanswered. Like, it's a good ending, but I would be happier if I got some more answers, like characters that are off looking for something. You know, I'm like, did they ever find that? Like, if so-and-so's off in Constantinople looking for this relic, I know they're not a main character, but I'm still curious. Like, did they ever find it? You know, like, what happened to them? I want, like, an epilogue being like, where are they now? What ended up happening? So, Jonathan Howard, for me, please, for the sake of my sanity, I need it. I need to know if the 2 characters ever wind up together, because we got a lot of service in this one, and it made sense. And also, it would make sense if these 2 characters did not end up with the relationship that I would like them to have, but that's why I want an epilogue. But I think it's fine without it. I think it ended in a really good, pleasing way, and I love the ride that this series and this book took me on. Please check it out. Please read it. Please, I'm so alone in this fandom, and I need merch. I want Johannes Cabal Hell Carnival merch. Yeah, by the way, in the first book, he's trying to get his soul back from the devil, and so he has to run a carnival to get 1,000 souls within a year to try and win his soul back from the devil, because he marched into hell being like, I want it back! I love Johannes Cabal so much. I love him so much. To try and sell you on this, I'm gonna read you one quote. I'm gonna read you a couple sentences, just to show you the kind of humor in this. The ghoul in the lead saw Cabal appear and grinned at him, its ears standing to attention like those of an inquisitive Doberman. Hello, said the ghoul. Hello, said Johannes Cabal, with a great deal less enthusiasm. Let me tell you how it happened. Beartooth rose grandly from his throne, and for one profoundly awful moment, Cabal thought he was going to sing. It's so stupid! The laugh beloved of those who are about to dump their unloved interlopers into an acid tank, or shoot them, or kick them off a convenient cliff. Ho 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 ho, he went, thereby upsetting Cabal, who had rather been hoping for the nya-ha-ha-ha variety as proof that the barb had struck home. Now to a more serious work, 1984. This is just a classic that I'm honestly shocked I have not read yet, and I think a lot of it is because I've just been intimidated by it. I say, even though I love classics. I love classics. I'm pointing to my versions of The Count of Monte Cristo and Hemingway over there. I love classics, but 1984, I think, because its reputation precedes it, I've just been very intimidated by it, and so I thought there's never been a time in my lifetime more important to read 1984 than I think right now, and it's relevant. I don't think I needed to tell anyone that. I think that's proof of itself in and enough. That was words, and I loved it. It's not a new favorite classic, but I really enjoyed it, and it's something that I think I will revisit every few years, and I'm going to get a physical copy eventually. I really liked it, and I liked that I was mad at the end. I liked that I was mad, but I understood, because that is the kind of emotions that spur someone to consistently think and to act, because when you're mad but you understand it, it really makes you dissect what conflicting feelings you have about it and why, and then carry that through into your own life. Like, why does it make me mad, but also why do I understand it? Because you can understand and not be sympathetic. So if you've read it, you probably know what I'm talking about, but I would recommend everyone read it. It's definitely not as highbrow as you would probably think, and that's not an insult. That's just score 1 for accessibility. Okay, in terms of starting a new series, Black Sun Rising. I love this series. This, I say, is I've only read the first book, so I got the paperback from like a thrift sale a long time ago, because look at this cover. That fantastic 90s art, absolutely gorgeous. And it follows sort of like a dystopian space fantasy world, where it's not really sci-fi spacey in terms of like aliens and Star Wars and Rudy Tooty aim and shooty. It's more of like Trigun, sort of like, you know how it's like a space western or whatever? This is like space fantasy. Over a millennium ago, Erna, a seismically active yet beautiful world, was settled by colonists from far distant Earth. But the seemingly habitable planet was fraught with perils no one could have foretold, and the colonists were soon caught in a desperate battle for survival against the Fae, a terrifying natural force with the power to prey upon the human mind itself, drawing forth a person's worst nightmare images or most treasured dreams and indiscriminately giving them life. 12 centuries after the fate first stranded the colonists on Erna, mankind has achieved an uneasy stalemate, and human sorcerers manipulate the Fae for their own profit, little realizing that demonic forces which feed upon such efforts are rapidly gaining in strength. Now, as the hordes of the Dark Fae multiply, 4 people are about to be drawn inexorably together for a mission which will force them to confront an evil beyond their imagining, in a conflict which will not only put their own lives, but the very fate of humanity in jeopardy. Big Nate, Say Goodbye to Dork City. This is volume 12 in the Big Nate graphic novel series. Not much to say about this, because it's just like a collection of the comics, but I love Big Nate. It's a comfort read for me. I love the series, and I'm just slowly working my way through them. So I'll go ahead and talk about the 2 that I've read. I read that one. I really liked it, but I gave it 4 stars in comparison to Big Nate, Welcome to My World, volume 13, which had a really dark joke, but was really funny. And I'll post a picture of it here, but I loved it. I love Big Nate. It's a good comfort read for me. And if you want like a book, graphic novel, kind of like of comics, just to chill out with at the end of the day, I recommend them. They're fun. The Bronze Key, the 3rd book in the Magisterium series by Holly Black and Cassandra Clare. This is a middle grade series following a magical school and a group of 3 friends Cal, what's her name, Tamara, and Aaron. Call? They call him Call? I think they do call him Call, but his name's Callum. So Callum, whatever. If you miss the atmosphere of Harry Potter and like Percy Jackson and you want a new middle grade that kind of follows that same vibes, I would recommend this to you. It's a good series, it's a short series, but it's easy on the brain, it's a fun time, and it also explores deeper themes, but I think in an accessible way, especially for younger readers. So even if you're not into that kind of middle grade series, if you know a younger reader who is, or you know someone who is, this is probably a good recommendation for them. I've enjoyed it so far, and I pretty much plow through them within a day. I think the characters are well built, they're well thought out. I love the world building that we're getting, the pace of the reveals and the information that builds upon itself in each book follows along at a really good pace. It keeps me interested, it keeps me intrigued, and I'm really excited to see how this world is going to continue evolving and how it's going to end, especially when we just had something devastating happen in this one. Also, there's a wolf named Havoc, if that convinces you. There's a chaos wolf named Havoc. Atomic Habits. This is a book that's been on my list for a while, and I'm finally done with it. Overall, I liked it. It was fine. I could only take so much from it, but I think that's what I liked about it. It's because I don't try to read self-help books as like the Bible to take whatever the blueprint for your life or whatever. And also I think there's a lot to be said about how neurodivergence wasn't addressed or wasn't acknowledged in terms of fitting into the framework of these solutions. But I think that's okay, because I think that would be a completely different rabbit hole for the author to go into and will be a whole nother book. And also, funnily enough, a lot of the strategies and things that the author touts are just tips for living with ADHD. They just are. Like, all the tips, I'm like, yeah, I've been told that to do that. Make it interesting, make it accessible, make it rewarding. You're just giving tips for ADHD. That's what this is. So I gave it a good, 4 stars, because I thought it did a good job at giving something that everyone could take away, even if everyone took something different away. I think you can take something away from it if you read it, but I don't think that it will work for everybody. But I also don't feel like the author sold it as that. I felt like the author sold it as there's something in here that can work for everybody. You know, everybody will find something that will work for them in here. Take what do the girlies say? Take what resonates and leave what doesn't. That's the way you should look at all self-help books, really. Okay, now we're to my guy. Come here! Stephen Graham Jones, The Only Good Indians. We're finally talking about Stephen Graham Jones. Y'all know he had to be mentioned. I read at least one Stephen Graham Jones book a month. I do. I feel like there's at least one a month. He's one of my favorite authors next to Mark Lawrence. I love his work, and this was no exception. A lot of people have been wanting me to read this for a very long time because it hits at the cross-section of a lot of things that I love in literature and a lot of things that I love in life in general. Nature as revenge, the power of memory, and also supporting women's wrongs. And I think it did that wonderfully. I love the theme of nature reclaims what we leave behind and memory acting as a cycle of revenge and also breaking the cycles of memory, but also nature never forgets. And I love that. I was talking to my friend M, and I think that if you want to get into Stephen Graham Jones' writing style, because his writing style tends to be like Hemingway, it tends to be kind of divisive if you like it or not, I would recommend this as the place to start, because I feel like it's kind of the most straightforward of all his works that I've read so far. This or Night of the Mannequins to just throw yourself right on into it. But I would say probably this, and then probably Night of the Mannequins, and then probably I Was a Teenage Slasher, which that's my favorite. I have it tattooed. But this one I'm also maybe planning on getting tattooed. And I think that upon a reread, I'll notice even more. Oh, but I love the second person point of view in here, and I wish that we had gotten more. Also, listen, we do have beef, Steven. So, 3 days after I finish this, he announces that he's writing the sequel. The sequel is going to be released right after I finish that. Coincidence? Where's my Bigfoot novel, Steven? I want my Bigfoot novel. Also, we're going to get to this later. Killer on the Road, helpfully inspired and mentioned his 1972 Cheyenne truck, which I'm named after. Not his particular truck, but the Cheyenne Chevrolet Cheyenne. Steven, this is getting weird. This is getting weird. No, but seriously, I'm very excited to read the sequel to this. I'm glad I finally caught up and read it. And I wish that there had been more. Like, I wish that it's perfect. I love it. But if I was going to provide a critique, I wish that and of course I say, like, I wish that we had gotten more. And then he announces, like, gotcha, bitch. There's a second one. So I guess it's not a complaint. I guess it's just a manifestation. But I wanted a little bit more, like, stalking and second point of view, but also it's fine without it. But if I was being picky, that's what I would say, but it's never a complaint to want more, unless Tessa. Alright, let's go ahead and talk about him since he's right here. So, I read The Babysitter Lives. I read Killer on the Road earlier in the year. I think I read it in January, but I read The Babysitter Lives to finish out this duology. Do not start with this as your first Stephen Graham Jones book, because it is the most timey-wimey, as M said, of all of Stephen Graham Jones' works. That's not to say it's bad. It's not. It's really, really good. It's also really, really confusing, and it's meant to be because it's sort of like a time loop kind of horror story. And it's great. I loved it. I loved every moment of it. And I was rooting for different things at different moments. At some points, I was screaming at certain characters, and at other points I was cheering them on. And I love that. I love the diversity within his characters. I like that he has running themes, but there's always a variation on the theme. You can never, as I said to M, I think, I like that I can usually see a little bit of where he's going, but in no way am I ever able to predict the end. Like, ever. He lets you see a little peek. Like, you get like I think that's a truck down there. What you don't see is that truck is carrying tanks and planes, and there's a clown driving it. That's what you don't see. And he's really good at that. And so if you like that kind of craziness, I'd recommend this. I love it. It's a great haunted house story. And speaking of progress in series, The Two Towers, Lord of the Rings, Book 2. I know, I am also shocked that I have not yet finished Lord of the Rings. The Fellowship was one of my favorite books as a kid. I loved Strider before I even watched the movie, and then when I watched the movie, I was like, they did my man good. Yeah, that's a pet peeve that I'll mention. People be like, oh, true growth, true maturity is like when you're a kid, you love Legolas, and you grow up and you love Aragorn. I've always been an Aragorn girly. I've always been a Strider girly. Ever since I read The Fellowship as a kid. Nat, over in Nerdy Nat Reads, my bestie for life. I almost wanted to rhyme it, and it didn't work. So, we're reading over at her Patreon, we're reading The Lord of the Rings for, like, the first quarter of the year. Obviously, February's was going to be the second book, and I'm so glad for the excuse to pick back up this series and finish it. I feel like people complain about The Two Towers as being, like, the most boring book, and I think that they're wrong. It is not the most boring. I think it is the most with space of calm in between. But it's so interesting because we get to learn about the Ents, and I think Gondor and Rohan are so infinitely interesting. Like, that whole intrigue surrounding their politics and their culture. I love it. I had such a great time with this. And yeah, I'm excited to finally read book 3, even though I know how it ends. But, like, reading it is a different experience. I love being back, like, being able to sink my teeth into a fantasy again with this writing that I'm comfortable with, that feels like a nice nap after a long day, just a warm fire crackling in winter. I love it. I love it. And the last two I'm going to talk about, we're going back to middle school, baby. So, in middle school, I love this series called The Secrets of the Immortal Nicholas Flamel, which follows the titular name, Nicholas Flamel, where there's, like, this whole group of immortal beings who, like, were born on this island or whatever, and they've discovered the secret to immortality, and there's battles between different groups of them that believe different things, and blah, 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 blah. It's really fascinating, and I should have known that I was going to be a history major from the beginning, I guess. What I did not know about this series, that I did finish, like, when I was younger, was that the author had written short stories since then. And so, like, there's in between, like, they take place in between the books. And I was like, especially when I saw that one of them followed my favorite character from the series, Billy the Kid. Billy the Kid was my favorite, and recently I've gotten back into a Billy the Kid, like, learning history phase, so this was perfectly timed. It was a perfect storm. But the first one that I read was The Death of Joan of Arc, and this was a super short read. It was essentially just how Joan of Arc was saved by one of the main characters from the series, because Joan of Arc is a character in the series, so this book was just how they escaped their death thanks to one of the main characters in the series, how they got away, and acting, it's written like it's a primary source from someone who was there and watched it happen, and like watched them ride off into the sunset. It was a really nice little like short story to be like, oh, well that's how she got saved, and that's pretty cool. The next one was Billy the Kid and the Vampires of Vegas. This was book 5.5, and so this follows one of the main characters of the series, Ska, and involves Billy the Kid. So Billy the Kid, it starts with him working for this guy in the series, and who is also a character, and he's supposed to go on an errand to take this thing to Ska. But when he gets there, she's sort of having a moment. She's having like a personal crisis because she got a phone call that she needs to go and rescue this person that she thought was long dead. Turns out they're alive and like they need her help. And so she basically loops Billy into being like, you got a car? And he's like, yeah, I got a car. And so she's like, all right, you're coming with me. You're driving me there. And he's like, okay. And so he ends up going to help her try to rescue this person and trying to figure out if it isn't a trap, and dealing with memories and revenge and also just Billy the Kid versus vampires. It's awesome. That's going to be it for my reading wrap up for February. I look forward to seeing what I read in March and seeing how I do. What are my goals for March? Do I really have any goals for March? Not really, just to keep reading my own physical TBR, those things about manga and series, whatever I said, and to catch up in my 10 pages a day books, because, yikes. But for now, that's gonna be it for me, but if you're not sick of me yet, which, okay. I have a lot more vlogs on this channel. I have a lot of challenges. I have some shorts. Check them out, recommended at the end or in playlists up above. You'll find it. And if you haven't already, you stuck around this long, why not subscribe and see what happens next? I'm gonna get the heck out of here though, and go do some reading and probably work out and go play with my dogs. But thank y'all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And if you ain't heard it from anyone else today, I love you. Love and peace.